persisting and rife discrimination and violence against women, in particular in France, Austria, Norway, Slovakia, Sweden, Luxembourg, and Ireland.
There are certain situations where women's physical makeup must be taken into consideration when enacting laws. Women must not be imposed on them certain heavy work, such as working in mines and other hard labor.
Islamic Sharia has granted women the same rights as men on the basis of principle. It is my honor to represent a country whose respect for women and the dignity of women is rooted in its ideological beliefs and cultural pasts.
I now give the floor to the representative of United Nations Watch.
Thank you, Mr. President. Combating discrimination against women is vital for the defense of civilization, freedom, and human dignity. It is no accident that in societies where women are free and equal, one finds less injustice, misery, disease, illiteracy, barbarism, tyranny, hatred, violence, and terror. UN Watch is part of this struggle. On International Women's Day this past March, we hosted an international human rights conference that addressed discrimination against women. The keynote speaker was Dr. Masouda Jalal, the former Minister of Women in Afghanistan. In 2004, she became her country's first woman to run for president. For her courageous example, she received UN Watch's 2010 Human Rights Hero Award. Permit me to share Dr. Jalal's words, which have universal application. Quote, "For the international community to help advance the status of Afghan women, there is a need to continuously raise the issue in global fora. You should not stop holding my government accountable for their performance on gender equality. You should continue sending missions to my country to check on the implementation of international commitments. You should keep on making statements whenever the rights of women in Afghanistan are being violated." End quote. Mr. President, we call on this Council to heed Dr. Jalal's plea, which applies to every country where violations of women's rights are not merely a blot on the system, but the system itself. For example, the UN cannot continue to remain silent in face of a legal system that sentences a rape victim to 200 lashes, as happened in Saudi Arabia, or in face of a government that sentences a woman to execution by stoning on charges of adultery, as happened recently in the Islamic Republic of Iran. In the words of the President of the European Commission, Jose Manuel Barroso, this stoning sentence is, quote, "barbaric beyond words and has no justification under any moral or religious code," end quote. And just yesterday, we learned that Iran has sentenced women's rights activist Shiva Nazar Ahari to 6 years in jail on charges of, quote, "warring against God." Mr. President, when will this Council answer the call of Dr. Jalal to help the women who are most in need by speaking out, dispatching investigators, and holding governments accountable? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I would recall that the references that were made by one of the NGOs with respect to Iran were not correct. Thank you.